Today in our pre-budget series, we ask what can the budget do for job creation. Now, employment numbers have been confusing. The latest KLEMS data from the Reserve Bank, which is based on the periodic labour force survey data, shows that the number of jobs created went up sharply in 2021 and 22. Remember, both COVID years. The KLEMS data also shows a fall in labour productivity, which means quality of jobs is probably the problem and not number of jobs. Today, I have with me someone who has immensely contributed to the formalizing of jobs. Manish Sabharwal, Vice Chairman, TeamLease, a company that has hired 18 lakh employees in the past 15 years. Manish is also a member of the National Skill Mission. So thank you very much, Manish. I can't think of a person better placed to speak to the government and to us about employment creation. Also, kudos for an excellent article in the Mint. So let me start. What should the first thing the budget do for formalizing jobs and indeed employment creation?
I mean, if I recognize the budget as a financial statement, the biggest gift it can give is macroeconomic stability. I think we sometimes take that for granted. So I think the notion that I think we have oversold fiscal and monetary policy as a way to create jobs. You know, if fiscal deficits could make countries rich, then no country would bother being poor. So I think the biggest gift that the government can give is just macroeconomic stability and obviously the steady shift from capex, from revenue expenditure to capital expenditure. I mean, the 10 lakh crore last time was a new milestone, and I hope we'll sort of keep recognizing that productivity is our challenge. And that goes back to the question that you raised of why are we having this debate? Are both sides right? And I think both sides of this debate are right. Unemployment has never been a problem since 1947. Our unemployment has been between 6 and 9%. Our problem is employed poverty. Now, what can the budget do about employed poverty is a really important question. Most people will say that employed poverty is about structural reforms or structural transformations, you know, moving from farm to non-farm employment, moving from informal to formal. So my sense is that the budget, we should not expect it to do sort of institutional reforms or capacity building reforms. Those are multi-year reforms, but it can do flick of pen reforms. And so there are a bunch of flick of pen reforms, whether it is going to a single labor code, whether it is reforming the social security system, whether it is making the Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0. Jan Vishwas 1 was a great innovation, but it was only 100 out of the 20,000 plus criminal provisions for employers that were removed. So there's a lot of daily life of employers. So I think if the budget shifts from this bird's eye view of employment to the worm's eye view of employment, what is the daily life of employers? That would be the biggest gift.
Oh, that's two excellent things that you've said. So let me go, word by word. The flick of pen and worm's eye view. Now, the flick of pen, let's start with this Jan Vishwas itself. What can it announce? You said 100 employers' acts were decriminalized. Many more need to be done. How should they do that?
So there are 25,000 ways to go to jail for employers in India. And that list is way too long. It is way too random. And basically, no, you don't put CEOs in jail, right? So there are transmission losses between how the law is written, interpreted, practiced, and enforced. So Jan Vishwas 1 was an innovation. You know, we haven't ever had a targeted decriminalization. But I think because of the way it was done, which was asking ministries or departments to surrender their criminal provisions, nobody cuts the tree they're sitting on. So I'm hoping Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0 really what I call reverses the gaze. The government will decide these are the 5 ways that you should go to jail, and all departments should remove provisions that don't mean. You know, it's very obvious there's established jurisprudence, harm to others, fraud. There are 4 or 5 reasons why which things should be criminal. You know, not filing a challan should not be criminal. Not putting chuna in your bathroom should not be criminal. I mean, these 26,000 ways are just randomly ways to go to jail. And combined with the fact that nobody goes to jail, if somebody steals Provident Fund, they should go to jail. Yeah. So I think that let's have less provisions, let's enforce them better. So I'm hoping Jan Vishwas 2.0 really takes this 26,000 number, of which 50% is with state government. So really only 12 to 13,000 are with the central government. Takes it to the next level of saying that, look, we are moving to a different regime where we will have fewer criminal provisions. We will enforce those criminal provisions, and we will be clear. Because currently, it just encourages corruption and informality. What is informality?
Fair.
Informality is a sense of humor about the rule of law.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me come to the more important thing, which perhaps all of us have felt. This social security appropriation, which the government does, or which employers are forced to do, EPFO, ESI, etc. Many of us are not able to get the pension money of our previous jobs because they are lost. You know, there was a time of pen and paper. You have a very strong view against it. If you can explain that in detail.
Well, I think mandatory payroll confiscation is not a source of financing. In a world of cost to company, benefits come out of salary. They don't come over and above salary. Unfortunately, these laws are written by civil servants whose views that benefits are over and above salary. That was corporate India 25 years ago. Now CFOs have no other pocket to pick. All employee costs go to one cost head. This is very important from a worm's eye view, because at every job fair that we go to, the kids say haath wali salary or chitti wali salary. And 35% of salary has to be confiscated for kids with less than 21,000 rupees per month wages. While if you have 30,000 or 50,000 rupees a month, I only have to confiscate 5% of your wages. So it's a funnily regressive thought world of the legislation that benefits will be paid over and above salary. Actually, what happens in the real world is that CTC is an agreed upon number, and then benefits come out of that. So and also this system is so inefficient. EPFO is the world's most expensive mutual fund. It charges 400 basis points. Most mutual funds, especially gilt weighted mutual funds, charge 25 basis points.
Yes.
So it's not only expensive, it's inefficient. There are 100 million EPFO accounts, but only 50 million pay every month. The other 50 million are dormant accounts like yours. Latha Venkatesh was Latha V, then it was V Latha, then it was, we all, in a pen and paper world, we had multiple ways which our name was written. It's not linked to Aadhaar. So I think that unless we stop this 35% salary confiscation by making employee provident fund voluntary, because employee provident fund, which belongs to the employee. I think employer provident fund, I don't mind, because the optics of reducing employment provident fund are so difficult. Make employer provident fund from 12 to 13%. But reduce employee provident fund, make it voluntary, create competition for EPFO, let us pay to NPS, create competition for ESI, let us buy any IRDA health insurance program. I think you will see at least 30, 40, 50 million people move into formal employment. And why I obsess about formal employment is employed poverty. Because the only way we're going to get out of employed poverty is wages being paid by high productivity employers, and formalization is a proxy for high productivity. Formal employers have access to credit, they have access to training, they have access to better employers. Right now, we're stuck in this low-level equilibrium where out of the 63 million enterprises in India, only 25,000 have a paid-up capital of more than 10 crores. So if you don't have pay the wage premium, you'll never have the productivity. But if you don't have the productivity, you can't pay the wage premium. So I think it is very unfortunate when people focus on the problem as jobs. Because if you think the problem is jobs, you'll throw money from helicopters, you'll mandate 3-day work weeks, you'll take away people's JCB and give them spoons to dig with, which is, I'm worried about this budget because some of the wrong narratives, or at least in my mind, the wrong narratives are that welfareism was not done enough. Actually, my reading of this election results is welfareism may be running out of its course, and the only tools you have are jobs and skills.
No, you may be right, because there is a race to the bottom now that state governments have started preparing for their elections. There is a genuine fear that this welfareism is getting out of hand. Manish, that's very important. I didn't know 21,000 salary below 21,000, 35% is appropriated and much less for above. This is, absolutely an eye-opener. And I hope this flick of the pen happens in the budget. But, on the larger issue of, job creation or employment creation, this capex, even construction these days, even road construction, is not as labor intensive as it used to be. So how do you make manufacturing labor intensive? Do you think PLIs should focus on how many of jobs created or labor intensive industries?
I mean, I think, we'll never get to the 45, 33, or 28, which were the peaks of the labor force of Britain, UK, and China. But 11% of manufacturing jobs is the wrong number. So I think clearly that single labor, and I think that, 50% of India's foreign direct investment since 1947 has come in the last 5 years. But the 40 factory refugees, I hope Xi Jinping doesn't get a fourth term. I hope he gets a life term because he is our biggest ally in fact, manufacturing jobs. But they have moved skills and infrastructure in their mind from a dagger in the heart to a thorn in the flesh. I think the only dagger in their heart now is the regulatory cholesterol, which obviously is around social security, but is around the criminalization, around the labor laws. So I think we have such a unique opportunity to create manufacturing jobs. The PLI is really a bribe to, people to shift their factories from China to India. I think we should try that. We must recognize that, it has the potential to get out of hand if you keep expanding it to multiple sectors. I mean, 2 lakh crores, 3 lakh crores, 5 lakh crores is the max that we should make the total allocation to PLI, because the challenge with these kind of schemes is that every scheme sort of every industry, every company will try and rebadge itself to take advantage. Absolutely. So I think PLI shifting from investment and output to employment is obviously a good idea. But I really think the role of the government is not to set things on fire. It is to create the roles of spontaneous combustion. If we can create the conditions for spontaneous combustion and, moving to labor codes, you can't comply with 100% of India's labor laws without violating 10% of them. There's 17 definitions of workers. There's 22 definitions of wages. So there is no way that you can operate across this country in multiple industries without sort of having some labor inspector show you how you're violating the labor laws. So instead of 4 labor codes, a single labor code, a move to simplicity. I mean, you can't idealize China moving 700 million people from farm to non-farm employment without recognizing that it was a fertile habitat for employers.
Yes, fair point. What combustion did you say it is?
Spontaneous combustion.
Okay, spontaneous combustion. Now, that's sounding pretty close to Shashi Tharoor. Okay. But anyway, those are very great ideas and don't require much expenditure. It's more in terms of changing the law, or as you say, a flick of the pen that itself can formalize a lot of jobs or create the environment for more formalization of jobs. Manish Sabharwal, always a pleasure speaking with you, and we hope we can have you on Budget Day as well.
See you soon. Take care.
Thanks a lot for that.